White House rumble. Let's play hardball. Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in Washington. We're hours away from a government shutdown, and the President of the United States is feuding with his chief of staff. It's not the first time this president has publicly picked a fight with a top member of his team, but it may be the worst. Yesterday, according to the Washington Post, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, quote, told Democratic lawmakers that some of the hardline immigration policies President Trump advocated during the campaign were uninformed. Kelly was asked about those very comments during an interview with Fox. Here's what he said.
This president, if you've seen what he's done, he has changed the way he's looked at a number of things. He's very definitely changed his attitude towards the DACA issue, and even the wall. Once we briefed him, he has evolved in the way he's looked at things. Campaign to governing are two different things, and this president is very, very flexible in terms of what is within the realm of the possible.
And Mexico's not going to pay.
So in one way or another, it's possible that we could get the revenue from Mexico, but not directly from their government.
He talks like he's feeding the president Gerber's baby food. Anyway, according to the New York Times, the president was livid when he heard that interview, and he turned to his favorite weapon to fire back. Early this morning, of course, he tweeted, quote, "The wall is the wall. It has never changed or evolved from the first day I conceived of it. The wall will be paid for directly or indirectly or through longer-term reimbursement by Mexico." The Associated Press is reporting that privately the president complained to friends that he felt that Kelly made him look like a flip-flopper and portrayed him as a child and had to be managed. A source close to the president told the AP that he upbraided Kelly after his Fox interview. That would have been interesting. Publicly, the president said he had a different message. Let's take a look.
He's great. I think he's doing a great job. I think General Kelly has done a really great job. He is a very special guy.
Well, despite that show of support today, Kelly's comments undercut the president and his repeated promise to actually build a wall. Here we go.
Oh, we will build the wall. This guy's, don't worry about it. It will be a great wall. It will be a real wall, folks. I promise we're building the wall, and Mexico will pay for the wall.
Mexico will pay for the wall, and I think they'll end up actually being very happy to do so.
The wall just got 10 feet higher. We love it. We are going to build the wall. It will be a real wall. A real wall. Who is going to pay for the wall? Who?
Well, the back and forth between boss and top kick on the president's immigration positions has not helped congressional Republicans get any closer to a deal that would solve the DACA problem and keep the government open. If no deal's reached, there will be a shutdown of the United States government tomorrow at midnight, Friday at midnight. For more, I'm joined by Jennifer Rubin, Washington Post opinion writer and MSNBC contributor, Cornell Belcher, Democratic pollster and an MSNBC contributor, and Casey Hunt on Capitol Hill right now gives us the update. Casey, thank you. You're smiling because I did talk about Gerber baby food because this chief of staff talks about the president as this cartoon character that has to be made into a real person by saying, well, he's evolved. He understands it's not really a wall. He really understands DACA. He's finally, since he's been briefed, in other words, when I told him what was going on, he seemed to have gotten it. This is condescending talk from the chief of staff. The president doesn't like it one bit. He's livid. He apparently upbraided him, whatever that is. That's the word from the White House. How does this Bickerson number going on at the White House affect the chance of not shutting down the United States government tomorrow night at midnight?
Well, it's how we got here, Chris, is all of this. I mean, this all started, the president had an open door meeting. He said to the lawmakers around the meeting, our cameras were there for like 45 minutes, unprecedented. And he said, whatever these guys come up with, I'll sign. And then 2 days later, we have that infamous closed-door meeting where John Kelly or someone at the White House invited more conservative members to sit with Lindsey Graham and Dick Durbin, who went over a bipartisan compromise on DACA. The whole thing fell apart when the president used inflammatory language about Africa and Haiti, and Lindsey Graham in that meeting went right back at him and said, you know, my ancestors came from countries like that. They didn't have any skills, and here I am. So what you have now is a Democratic Party that's been given a rationale for this potential shutdown. The brouhaha over the last week has really energized their base and made it much easier for Democrats to say, we can't possibly work with this guy on this issue. I mean, when he says things like this, we can't possibly do it. Whereas Republicans privately are with John Kelly. They think that this president says one thing one day, another thing the next, doesn't really understand the issues. He's tweeted about a multiple. FISA was in danger this morning. There was a brief moment where we thought the president was opposing this because it included a long-term extension of the children's health insurance program. I mean, this is the president that they're dealing with. And quite frankly, it's a big part of the reason why we're here.
I get a sense we're going to be here for a while. I get a sense, I mean, Trump gave a barn burner of his speech in Pittsburgh today. I'll talk about that later. That he's good at. He's good at standing in front of a bunch of supportive people giving a hell of a speech. It was, I think, one of his best today. But he doesn't seem to know how to run this government. What's going on in the minds of Capitol Hill people you cover all the time? What do they think's going on in his mind? What are they trying? How are they going to figure the guy out? What he will buy? Does he want it? Will he take Doc if it's forced down his throat, for example? Will he take it?
I got to tell you, Chris, I think that they are the same place that many people who are watching this unfold and not understanding what goes on with this president. I think even the people who have worked really hard, take Lindsey Graham. He's a great example. He's somebody who was an antagonist, and then he turned around and he decided, you know what? The best way to try to figure this president out is to go be his friend, play golf with him, get him on the phone. He did that. And now, days later, after that White House meeting where they had this showdown, the reports are that the president's not taking Lindsey Graham's calls. He can't get to the president. So instead, he's back, making cable news appearances, trying to send messages down, the TV tubes that the president clearly pays a lot of attention to. It's really unlike anything I think a lot of the people up here have ever seen. And I mean, one of the dynamics at work here on the Hill as we race towards this shutdown is how much of it feels unprecedented. There was a sense that, oh, yeah, we'll figure it out. They always figure it out. There's no way the government is going to shut down over this. But then over the weekend, the S-hole debate comments, it changed the entire landscape. And I guess one question is, we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. You and I could be, here tomorrow at 7 o'clock having a completely different conversation because I certainly every day covering this, the people that I talk to in these hallways, nobody has any clue what's going to happen in the following 15 minutes. I mean, it's just we are in such uncharted territory. And maybe that's an obvious thing to say now, but it's still very much how it feels
you're
today.
You're giving us a wonderful capsule of insanity, and that's what's going on. Thank you so much. Casey Hunt on the Hill, who knows what's going on and mentally what's not going on. Thank you. Let's go to Cornell Belcher and to Jennifer Rubin sitting next to me. This thing, I don't think there's any precedent for it. And I don't buy the idea. This is just the usual turbulence you feel in an airplane. Oh, don't worry. It's just turbulence. The plane's flying fine. No, there's something as whack job because you've got people who do not like immigration. They don't even like regular legal immigration. They don't like. And you got people who insist on basically meeting the needs of a constituency, the Hispanic people of this country, the Latinos. They want to help them. They want to help those kids especially. I don't see the give here. I just don't see it.
The irony is if they put this on the table, it would pass. They actually have a lot of votes. They have a majority of votes.
You mean the
Both
middle?
Parties. Yes, exactly. And,
the middle that doesn't call the shots.
If you have all of the Democrats voting one way and this pack of group, Lindsey Graham is expanding the people who now say that they're in favor of a solution, it would work. But Trump won't let them put it on the table. McConnell won't let him put it on the table. Ryan won't. And so we're at loggerheads. And I think what's going to happen is even if the House passes it through, what's Mitch McConnell going to do? He's going to turn around and make a deal with.
Okay, how do you get this? Look, here's the story. An uncertain trumpet. What is the message from the White House? That the president will give on this wall thing? Is it the president understands DACA and understands he can't fight it? That's the message from the chief of staff to the Hispanic caucus the other day. The president completely undermined that today, saying, I don't change. I'm still a wall guy, and I'm tough.
That leadership matters, Chris, right? And what we're seeing right now is what happens when we don't have leadership. This level of dysfunction and chaos in our government is unhealthy. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, you can't have this level of chaos and dysfunction at the head of our government where they're all over the place. Look, Nancy Pelosi, I think, nailed this. It's this amateur hour, right? Then this is dangerous. This is dangerous and terrible, and particularly for those those thousands of young Americans who've known nothing but America, and this is their country, they're in the lines of fire because of this absolute chaos and dysfunction at the top. Be a leader. Take one side and stick with that side. The president is absent in this.
Anyway, as we said earlier, Democrats and Republicans have until midnight on Friday, that's tomorrow, to find a way to fund this government. And the two parties are struggling to find something like a compromise. Candidate Trump ran on the promise that he would be a deal maker. Remember that? In instances just like this one. Let's take a listen.
If I get elected president, I'm going to be in the White House a lot. I'm not leaving. We have deals to make. Who the hell wants to leave?
I will bring America to a new level. I will negotiate deals that nobody can negotiate like I do. I know everybody that I'm running against. I mean, nobody is going to be able to do the kind of things I can do. It's supposed to be you get along with Congress and you cajole and you go back and forth and everybody gets in a room and we end up with deals.